Welcome back to the SuperCoach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Mikey, and we're joined by Jake as per usual. How are you, Jake?
Yeah, good, mate. I guess it was an interesting round of rugby league in terms of SuperCoach. Apart from today, my SuperCoach round was terrible. It was saved by Tommy Turbo. VC looped him in. I know Mikey will get to that as kind of a burning point because he was well ahead before that. But apart from that, half my side scored under 50. So it was a bad week, but it was saved by one player.
Yeah, I remember on the SuperCoach Experience, like on the Tuesday podcast with Sabs, I remember saying that the week was kind of going to be decided by that Melbourne and Roosters game. I thought that would be pretty defining. Obviously, it did come down to that Manly game, but a lot of players, a lot of mixed scores from that game, and I know a lot of us coaches. I had 7 players tied up in that game. Yeah, I scored 12-15. I'm 12-18, sorry. No Tom. So I'm pretty happy with that score without Tom. I think my rankings might dip a little bit with that score. I'm not sure. Like realistically, I said it before in our little chat. You got 3 this week. You've got the shitters at Captain Teddy. Like that's where I rank the scores. Not saying you shit, but shitters with Teddy, like that would probably bring your score down. You got in the middle where people that would have captained you for feeders and Garricks, and then your people top end that would have captained Tom. So I feel like it's really split into 3 this round. Man, I made a lot of changes to what I said I was going to do. I went rogue. If anyone's been paying attention to our last podcast, I went rogue. Traded out Coruscant to Starling. Yep, I only have Starling as my starting hooker, but it gave me a war chest. I got scared when I saw Chan was in the 17 this week, so I changed my trade of getting Burden in. Instead, kept Galvin, who ended up scoring 100, and I brought in Angus Crichton, so I didn't get enough because I was going to have to cop an AE. Sorry. In that second row. So I avoided Joe Chance 2 or 5, whatever it was. So I think the changes I made, we went to Ground Zero catch up on Saturday, Jake, and I was overthinking hard in the car, but I think all the overthinking I did ended up working out. And to top the round off, I couldn't make my decision for the captain about 5 minutes between the Roosters game. A lot of the boys at the table were going towards the Roosters. I decided to do the unthinkable and I spun a wheel. Which I don't generally like to do, but it was 50-50. I spun the wheel, went to the Desco, and then tipped over to Fafita. So thank you, spinning wheel of fortune. It saved me this week, probably saved me 100 points. So, that's just that's the best case of luck.
But mate, you put your belief in the wheel and it
I did.
You.
And as much as I wanted to ignore the wheel, I knew that ignoring the wheel would be costly. And oh boy, wouldn't it have been costly? So
anyone out there, if you're struggling to make a decision, the wheel's the way to go.
Yeah, look, if you
and
always
if it fails,
trust,
it's not our fault; it's the wheel's fault.
Trust your own gut. I think it's the most uncertain I've been about picking a captain because I didn't have Tom. I was so torn at what to do, and I was so scared of Tedesco. And I just loved Fafita's average against who he was playing, Manly. But it could have been a lot bigger of a score. But hey, it's better than what
takes an 84. Updates
happily take it. Yeah, hopefully updates to 90. Before we get into our 7 games for the round, and this is the last time we're going to see 7 games for the rest of the year. Savs mentioned it a bit on the Burst podcast. We've got a event coming up in round 23, 10th of August for Super Saturday. We're going to start getting some flyers and stuff out. We'll start spreading the word. So if you guys live around the Penrith area or can make your way down to Penrith, come support us. We're doing our own podcast kind of Super Saturday show. So we'll be starting from 2 p.m. From 2 to 3 we'll go, and then basically in between or half times and ad breaks, we'll have a little bit of a stage set up. We've got lots of merch to give out. Tyson Pedro will be there, and we've got a stacked list, a stacked lineup joining us to help us put on a bit of a SuperCoach and NRL show. We got Barnsey from the All Stars podcast, who I podcast with quite a bit. We got the Cast Patrol boys, Winston Neville. Come down and see him do a hot dog review. We got Tommy Sangster, the SuperCoach, the face of SuperCoach. Malachi Watini-Zalesniak's going to be there. Joe Natter, former winner. We've also got Mark and Mav Geyer, as well as one Penrith player. Sabs has told me in a pin that it's Cleary's a good chance. They do play on the Friday, the day before, in Penrith. So I guess it just depends how they're going for the week. So we're not sure which Penrith player, but we're getting one. And yeah, I said Tyson Pedrotti. So yeah, stacked lineup. we'll have them spread out throughout the night, asking questions, doing a bit of like the fun games like we do on the Burst podcast, and just come down, have a beer, and chill while we watch Saturday. Roosters are on the bye that week, so a lot of us are going to be low and might be an interesting week. So get down to that. Should be a good one, and Sabs will continue to plug it. So hope to see some of you guys there.
Yeah, right. Should be good. I mean, it's at, I don't think you mentioned it, but it'll be at Drink West, which is Nathan Cleary's brewery. So that's why there's a good chance that Nathan could be there.
Yeah, out in Penrith. And as we said, plenty of merch to give out, and I feel like it's going to be a good day. So get down there if you can. Let's get started. All right, the first game of the round, we started with the Warriors and Raiders. So top score with this one, Hudson Young absolutely killed it. Scored lots of tries. Be a bit of a pod. I guess from this point on, kind of when we're reviewing it, most of us going to be low on trades. I guess if you're having a look at the draw, Raiders don't have any more buys left. The Warriors have one. I guess it's important to have a look, and Hudson Young could be a point of difference player. If you had an abundance of trades, I definitely think the strat would be to pick up guys like him to get point of difference. But at the same time, let's be honest, if you didn't get Cleary this week, you're going to be wanting to target him. If you don't have Crichton, I think it's going to be pretty streamlined for now. So I understand if people have those priorities first. Starling ended up with 62. I thought that he was underscored with a few tackles, and I was harping on about that to you yesterday, Jake, and went to 62. Fairly happy with the trade. He'll go up to close to 400K, nearly 100K. He'll make about 80 to 90. But I now enter Ricky Roulette. So every week I'll be playing Ricky Roulette to see if I have to use a trade for that week.
Well, I mean, in promising signs for Starling, he did play the 80 minutes, and Levi didn't even get on the field. And in the last, that's now 4 games, I think, or 3 games where he's played 70 plus. So the fact that the Raiders won, you did say that yesterday, Mikey. The fact that the Raiders won, there's a good chance he doesn't switch up the side. So it's promising signs for all those who, maybe Coruscant, they, needed a hooker and went Starling like yourself. It could work out. I mean, he does this every year, Starling. He tempts us, and then Ricky destroys us.
Yeah, look, as an owner, I don't know if I could jump on next week. He's going to go up to 390, and I think the more he costs, the higher the risk. I think I was willing to take the risk at the price and what it could do for me. It meant that I could get Cleary and Crichton within these 2 weeks without having to worry about holding a guy like Dylan Brown or Cardi against Melbourne. So I guess just like I did, plan ahead, have a look what you think's going to hurt you the most, and update your trades as the round goes. Tapane continues just to get those solid 60s and looks like a decent guy to run with to the end. And let's, apart from the Raiders, I thought Fogarty was pretty good on return, but realistically, the rest of the ones here, not much SuperCoach relevant to look at here. Their run isn't too bad for a little bit, but it does get very tough, especially towards the back end. The Warriors, Adam Fanua-Blake puts his hands up again with a big 103. Personally brought him in last week, so he's just so highly owned. And having a look at, their draw over the next couple of weeks is pretty decent. So the fact that you tempt him to be able to score a try against these, I wouldn't say weaker oppositions, but not as tough as your top 4 opposition. So he basically bottomed out in price. And look, to be honest with you, if you're needing a front row, I prefer him to Haas. How about you, Jake? Do you think just for the price and what he can score with his attacking upside, if you didn't have Haas or AFB, would you be going AFB before Haas?
Well, I mean, before this week, AFB was 560. He'll go nearly towards 600, which is still 100K less than Haas.
Yeah, beat his break even by 30.
I guess the Wars do have the buy in the very last round, which in terms of head-to-head is not going to matter, where the Broncos have it, I think, around 24. So that could be a bit of a problem that way. But yeah, I'd rather AFB. Save the 100K. In terms of average, you're probably going to get the same. I know AFB's floor is a bit less, but he does have a higher ceiling because he does cross over for tries. And I think getting him for under 600 if you do need a front rower definitely seems a way to go. I mean, Barnett's kind of priced himself out of being bought at like 800K now. So it's kind of got your free price differences. I think, yeah, definitely AFB you prefer, and then I guess Payne-Haas is probably the second option for a little bit more.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. Sorry, just have to get back to my page with the Warriors. So apart from AFB, they also went down to a close one. It's getting to the point where a lot of these matches now are do or die for a lot of sides. So I think that's also important to look at when, deciding to play, because from this round, from the next round, it's going to get really tough to pick who your starting 17 is each week. And that's going to be what's going to get you ahead or make you fall behind. Wade Egan shows his face again with a 82. To be honest, at his low price, I think he's a good mid-range hooker option too. If you want someone with a bit more job security, then you could prefer him to Starling. Shout out to Mitch Barnett that keeps on doing Mitch Barnett things, a 97 with a try. Shout out to Barnes if you brought him in, which I thought was a great move. Just kind of showing that at that price point, what he can do. And he had a 30 break even, so his ship has well and truly
he's over 800
set sail. Now. Yeah, too much to bring in when you've got someone like AFB who's pumped out more this week for a much cheaper price. RTS with an 85, Dylan Walker with an 84, and realistically, all the ones below that, I guess, I guess Tamari Martin could be relevant for some people that are held on. I guess, this you might be looking forward and going, this might be one of the weeks where you look to zip ahead and get rid of him to go to like one of your Clearys. Before I hand you over to that game, I've got a couple of questions. Paycheck, I don't understand why you would see Teddy when he's playing Storm at home, and they only have beaten Storm once in the last 3 years. Yeah, Paycheck, yeah, you're right. But I guess if people didn't have Tom and they were looking low, Teddy's average this year has been pretty ridiculous. And like myself, I believe that the Roosters could upset the Storm here. I really thought that they were ready to turn a corner and defy the odds and get the win here. So I guess the guys that did captain him believe the same, just because I feel like the options weren't as good. And I think people might have been scared of like a Fafita or Garrick, as they didn't know how that one was going to go. And yeah, do you see it any other way, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an ideal matchup, but I think the form people were banking on, the Roosters were going so well. Storm, I mean, you look at their side, there's a lot of, missing holes in there that you think, oh, yeah, Roosters will torch them apart. They just keep turning up. Like Grant Anderson has a game of his bloody life. But yeah, I mean, it was 10% captain. Turbo, I think, was 10.5% captained. So it was a pretty even split because there was no standouts. I think everyone kind of didn't really know what to do, so they just went, "Oh, we'll just go Teddy. He's the one that has a bit of form and didn't pay out for him." So those that went against it, a bit risky, if you could call it that, to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess the difference in the ownerships for Teddy and Tom was in the top 1%. Teddy was like 11, and Tom was like 24. So I guess that shows you the spike. And then my brother Mike, could I jump your spot from 1200 with a 1386? No.
How many points is he behind you?
I'm still 100. I had a look before I answered the question. I'm still 180 points ahead. So you'll need another big week like that to jump me. We'll just answer one more. We've got James Filler there. Hey lads, what we're thinking is par this week. Par's tough this week. I said at the start of the pod, it's split into 3, depending on who you captain. I think you need 1200 to sit.
At least 1200.
1200 about the 80, but I think if you want to make moves this week, I'm thinking more 1300 plus. Anyone with Tom, most people, apart from yourself, Jake, with Tom as a C, a 1300-ish plus. So it makes it hard to scale. But yeah, as I said, I think anything under 1150 would be poor this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because of that. Yeah. If Tom didn't go 13, the massive 1300, then I think the par goes down a shitload. If it stuck to what he was doing in that first half.
All right. He went from 23 to finishing on 157.
Yeah.
On to the next game.
Yeah, let's go for it. We'll just pump through the SuperCoach options, Jake, rather than everyone that scores high.
Yeah, easy. I mean, this was the first game. It was kind of pretty SuperCoach relevant for us. A lot of the ground zero were very much in this game. You especially, Mikey. Alex Johnson. He's always a nervous watch, but he has rewarded you. 2 weeks in a row, he's rewarded you. Got a double 74. Just an AJ sort of thing. I mean, he's going to bank on tries to get a somewhat decent score.
And he's going to make some cash. Very low break even next week.
What about the goal kicking centre, Damien Cook, top scoring 107? After he shanked his first one, I thought, oh no, they're going to be putting a different kicker in, and he kicked his next 7. So, I mean, in terms of hookers, as long as he doesn't end up playing centre every week, which he did pretty well at, he's not a bad option for the run home because it looks like he's going to be goal kicking, Mikey. So, I mean, if you want to pay up, just say Appy's out this week, would you go to a Damien Cook?
That might sound crazy. Obviously, he got shifted last week into centre, which is why you see a poor score from him. And the fact he wasn't even a poor score. He got shifted and he still got 63. But he has a pretty high break even this week. So to be honest with you, I actually think if I had to choose a hooker right now, if I had the cash, I'd put him at number 1. Just purely he's in everything, especially with Latrell out of the side. He's doing so much, and add the goal kicking in there. Man, yeah, if I could spend the cash on there and I still had Coruscant and I didn't want to run home with Coruscant as he's got a bye in the head-to-head finals week, I like Damien Cook. I think he's an excellent purchase, even though you're paying a lot less than what you could have rated.
Yeah. I guess other Supercoach options out of South, Colmatungi, another beastly performance with an 80. He's kind of priced himself out of it now. I mean, he's 700 plus K. Angus is probably the more enticing pick just for an attacking upside. But Colmatungi, man, if he's playing 80 in the middle every week, which it looks like, definitely a decent pickup. Cody Walker, I mean, 2 tries. Two tries. He was on 50-something, but ended up on 68.
51. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely an upside play. You kind of expected more with South scoring 42, but it's not a terrible score. Cody Walker, obviously, is probably one that you're going to keep and play on matchup, Mikey. Anyone that owns Cody Walker?
It's tough because I'm at the point now where I didn't get Burden. I might still look at Burden, and if I do go Burden, it's either Cody or Galvin to go. But when you look at Cody Walker, he's been scoring tries and doing okay the past few weeks against some, not the greatest oppositions. His oppositions are going to start getting pretty tough. So to be honest, he's going to be a hard play in a lot of them. But I just think with his pedigree compared to Galvin and the fact that the Bunnies are still pushing for a top 8 spot, I think it will make me lean towards Walker. But if it's going to be a cash thing, probably, it just depends. I think it's a tough call. But yeah, with the amount of depth, I could afford not to play him each week. So I think he's the kind of guy, I know we haven't seen him go above 102 this year, but it's definitely in him. I still think a 120 plus is in him.
And he does look likely. It's not like he's, just fluking a couple of tries. He looks likely. There was one play where I can't remember. I think it was Memazoulis could have passed on the inside of Cody. It would have scored unmarked, and he kind of went out to the left. So it's just been kind of a bit unlucky. With Cody, and I guess with having dual flexibility in the halves, you can kind of maneuver him around a bit to maybe cover with a Burton, with a Dylan Brown on matchups later on. So I think that's all right. Tigers, Galvin rewards those that held him and the ones that ended up not trading him out and playing him, Mikey. You got lucky with this one. Galvin 104. I think he finished
doesn't
on
lose
90.
Any money. That's why I wanted
lose
to
any
sell
money.
him. Yeah, I was so scared that this might have been an 18-4 scoreline, and Galvin would have got another 30 and lost a bucket load of cash. He would have lost 50K, which makes it hard to get to Cleary. So if you somehow held, now it's just how can you sell him at the moment? Because he's still got these big scores in him, and in that 5'8" position, there's not many of them that he scored a ton already this season, and he's had quite a few scores above 70. To be honest, he's got the ceiling. I think if you compare him to some of the other 5'8", I think he's a bit more consistent than some of them. So as good as Matt Burton's story is, he's kind of, tempting
it's
to hold him.
Similar sort of player to Burton. And I think with Appy not there, he definitely took more control over the game. Caesar's going to be missing for a couple of weeks as well. So I think they're going to put a younger, one of the Finus, who the halfback one, I think he's going to be playing as 7. So I think that just gives more control to Galvin. It's going to be Galvin's team. So yeah,
do you reckon, do you reckon that potentially this week, if Coruscant comes back, maybe with how good Talon De Silva was, who will be a next one, maybe Talon stays in hooker and Coruscant goes to halfback? That could be just having a quick flick and thinking of it now. with I forgot about Caesar. That I think that could be an option because Talon was outstanding. Look at that score. 222K, 46 in his first game. Man, if he was going to keep Coruscant out, or like if Coruscant was going to be out longer, you knew he had that spot, it could be a good way to get rid of someone like Lussick.
Yeah, I mean, outstanding game. He scored 103, try, assist. Looked like with everything he was doing, he was half volleying off the ground, kicking it, and he was only young as well. Him and Galvin, they really, showed highlights for the Tigers' future. But yeah, I mean, it's all going to depend on Appy. His role really depends on that, and I think it's not really a serious injury for Appy, so he could be back this week or even the week after, which makes Talon Da Silva really not a play at all. Everyone else from the Tigers, I mean, they're not really that relevant. Some people might have Stefano as a front rower. He does a job, I guess. You can put him in just under Tarpanay, in the Cotter bracket as, 50 to 60 points. So if you got him, I guess stick with him. You don't really want to be playing around with front row. But other than that, the fact the Tigers are, running last, everyone else, I think, see either a trade out or not an option at all, Mikey.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's pretty stock standard. All right, let's flick over to game number 3, which was the Knights and the Broncos match. To be honest, it's a bit of a boring game at first, especially at the start. I was a little bit bored. But there are heaps of talking points because, as expected, Adam Reynolds come in, all their rested stars. They didn't really, all the Origin stars, backed up, and they looked pretty dangerous. And they controlled this whole side, and Reece Walsh was amazing. And if the Broncos continue to do that, all of a sudden, some of those matchups that you believe to be a bit easier against the Broncos, I think, become very hard. Like the Dogs go up to Suncorp next week to play the Broncos. That becomes hard now. So I'm looking at people like Matt Burns and going, no, I think you got to relook at things. And I think the Broncos, they're definitely with Reynolds in that side and Walsh firing and Haas there pumping it and Carrigan. Like they're good enough. They're too good of a side not to be in the 8. So I really think they'll press home pretty hard. At the Knights, top score, Greg Marzhew, 76. Got saved at the death of that try, and man, the casino erupted when we were there. When good old Greggy went over. Kind of just proven that, like, to be honest with you, he's going to have some low scores in him, but I understand they now have a bye and then go Penrith, but I think Greg's going to be important for your run home and head-to-head finals, and he's the kind of guy that you'll just rotate in your centre wing and not play him each week. You'll play him as you feel him, and really see how they perform against Penrith, and then I guess you've just got to believe in them. If you playing him for their run home, if you think they can do what they did last year. Dylan Lucas, 61. Dan Gogai, 50. The big news is Bradman Best, 7. I know a lot have brought him in a few weeks back as a centre, which like for Joey Manu even, and he's now got injured. Hamstring, looks like he'll be out for a little bit. It's a killer for them. And I guess the big talking point in this one is Kalen Ponga, break even of 180 with 49. So I'm doing the quick math here.
It's going to lose about like 115, 120.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, about 100. Yeah, 110. If my maths around there is what I'm getting at the moment. So that sees him plummet to 676-ish with another massive break even because he'll have. I do think the 18 will roll out of his average now. The 14 will roll out. So he'll have 71, and then he'll have the 49. He'll still have, at that price, he's still going to have a break even around the 100. I don't have the sites.
Plays Penrith.
And he plays Penrith at Penrith. And then after that, he obviously plays Tigers, Sharks, Bunnies, Titans. To me, especially if you're in the top 4, then you can minus out that Sharks one if you get a win. That'd be Tigers, Bunnies, Titans. That's great for head-to-head. And as a non-Tom owner, and now Tom goes into playing Roosters in a bye, instead of grabbing him next week, I'm just having faith in Ponga. I really am. I think he might be a guy that can help you nudge back what you've lost. But yeah, he's going to be too tempting to get Ponga for that price. I guess we can wait one more week because you might say, I didn't look that good, but I think he'll build. And with that run home, I do think the Knights will push. I even think they'll be up for the Penrith game. But yeah, it's a big talking point and a close watch. Kalen Ponga, who was, easily at $1 million in SuperCoach. after that Penrith game could be at like 640K. So you have to keep an eye on him. You'd be crazy not to. Over to the Broncos, Dean Mariner with a 124 top scores this game, but Reece Walsh a big talking point. Was big on the fullbacks last week, talking about 5, and I didn't really mention Walsh. The 113 wasn't everything. Could you, Jake, look at someone like Reece Walsh with their run home now? They're looking great over some of these other guys. Could he be the option if you didn't want to get Tom with the bye incoming? Would you go to Walsh? Although the Broncos do have a bye coming up.
I mean, a lot of the fullbacks do. I mean, he's kind of in the same bracket as Tom and Ponga. I definitely think he's an option. I mean, what we just saw on the weekend, put Origin game aside, he was just battered and bruised. But a free flowing game like we saw on the weekend, he's just going to carve up, and he was in everything. So definitely an option. He's probably the pod option of the lot, to be honest. I don't think a lot of people will go him. So he's definitely going to be the pod option, and he can, on any day, just match it with all them guys. So I don't mind it at all.
10% owns for Walsh. The pod fullback at the moment, out of all those top guys, apart, I think, from Edwards, who isn't playing, so you rule him out, is Paps at 8%. But Walsh isn't cheap. He almost doubled his break even, and he's at 762K. So realistically, for the price, Tom went nuts today, but he beat his beef by 70. You'd probably, if you didn't have Tom, yeah, it's tough because they both got buys. Look, this fullback decision is tough, and I think the later you leave to get Tom, the harder it gets. But look, we're not even up to the Manly game, so I'm not going to get stuck talking about him yet. Ezra Mann, 90. SuperCoach relevant. Well, Payne Haas, 57. This game is updated too. So realistically, I wouldn't say he's not an option, but I think for the price, I just think there's better guys to grab and that can do a job for you rather than grab Haas. If you are in desperate need of a front row and say you've already got AFB in that, then yeah, I don't mind it. But
yeah, I think with him, you'd need a cover for round 24. I don't whatever. You need a third front row. You can't really in second round of finals in head to head. You can't be running out with, say, Sam Hughes as front row 2 instead of Haas, because you'll be benching him for that week because he has the bye. So you're obviously going to have a plan for head to head in round 24 as well as 23 when all your Roosters are not playing as well.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, Terrell May, you could have Terrell May down one week and then Payne Haas down the next week. That could be your 2 front rowers and you're missing them.
Yeah, there you go. So that's important to plan too. Over the next game, Jake, Storm and the Roosters.
It wasn't quite the game we expected. We thought it might have been a close game, but the Storm absolutely killed it. Sean Bloor, top scorer, 101. Played quite well. I mean, he got 101 with just a try assist, couple of line breaks in there. I don't really see him as an option. You don't really want him and Eli Katoa. I know Eli Katoa only scored a 56, but I mean, it was a 56 without kind of any play down that edge, so you kind of just take it. Howarth, I think the boat has sailed on going Howarth. It looks like he has nailed in that left centre spot for the Storm, but what's he going to be priced at now? Yeah, he's nearly going to be nearly 400K, so only second row available. He's kind of pricing himself out of getting picked. Harry Grant with a 74. Looked good as well. Throw him in the hooker conversation, but carrying that sternum injury, but didn't look like he had any problems getting through the game. So one to, I guess, monitor. In the previous years, he's shown that he's, far and away the best hooker, but you've got, Damien Cook, you've got maybe Appy coming back. I don't think it's as clear-cut as going him as you think. Would you agree, Mikey?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that game that he played on the weekend now kind of puts Harry Grant at the cheapest he'll be, and I think for the price is tempting. But let's not forget that the Storm now with that win still have a 4-point clear gap at Penrith, which I think is important to note because although the Storm don't have a bye, if they continue, that Penrith and Storm game coming up towards the end of the year will be crucial because if Melbourne get that, then the minor premiership stays if they beat them at home. But the reason I'm saying that is because I'm worried if you grab Grant and don't have a backup hooker, I expect him to get rested towards the back end of the year. We know he's there. He wasn't 100% coming to this. He didn't get rested. So I'm just worried back ends if you're out of trade and you don't have a backup hooker. That's what worried me about going sole Harry Grant, which is why I decided to do a strat where yeah, but I'm doing that. I'm not spending that money. I'm doing that for 300 less. I wouldn't have been able to get Cleary and Crichton in these weeks if I did that. So, yeah. Look, I think it's still a good option, but and if you already had a gun hooker, do you really want to be spending your money in trades on getting two? But I think if he continues to play, I think he's going to get a bit of a run here. They've got a very nice draw coming up, so expect him to get some early showers too if they're pumping teams.
Yeah, I mean, this game, it just wasn't ideal for both teams. Melbourne Storm, and you had Pappenhausen, only 35. Jerome Hughes, he looked the premium halfback going into this game. In his previous run of forms, only getting 25. Wishart, who's kind of owned, who's probably peaked out now. I think Munster's 2 weeks away, so Wishart to maybe a Cleary's probably going to be a popular option for those that took the Wishart price increase, only getting 41. And then over to the other side, I mean, you had Angus Crichton. He updated like 20 points. He went from like 55 to 74. He had like 8 or 9 offloads in this game. Definitely proving out, he played 80 minutes in Origin, definitely proving why he's probably the premium option and probably going to be the cheapest you'll kind of get him. And now it kind of depends on if you want to get him now or maybe after his bye, but Angus Crichton, Mikey, you did end up bringing him in. Is he the top second row forward? I mean, him and Fafita, it seems like.
Yeah, I'd put him at number one. I think the fact loses 46K, the 49 drops out, so he now sits with a 71 and a 95. So I think that's pretty huge. Manly is going to be a tough one, but it's at Allianz Stadium. Like that one's going to be a hard one to judge. See if Manly are up for the case. Then the Dolphins, who have been pretty competitive before they go on their bye. But I could still look, he versed Melbourne and got 71, the amount of offloads in his work rate, that I think if you're in need of a second rower and you have enough to cover in round 23, I'd say go for it. I've got 4 Roosters now. I know it's going to be a bit tougher for me in 23, but I was like, no, I'll be able to manage. And yeah, I just feel like I haven't owned him all year, and it feels so nice to own him now, and he's a scary guy not to own. So I think at 740K, if you were after a second roll next week, I would jump on. If you had other moves to do and you really want to bank your trades and you need to get money to get to him, I think if you don't jump on him this week, you definitely have to wait till the Para game in round 24, where I think he's almost a must-have.
Yeah, agreed there. Dom Young, an unspectacular yet decent scoring 72. He was terrible defensively, but he's not there for his defense. 72. Great score for centre wing. Terrell May, I've kind of just noticed he finished in like 41, updated to 54. You take that as front row, and you kind of can expect
with lower minutes too.
He played decent-ish minutes. I mean, 45, I think it was, maybe around that mark. Which with Hargraves not there, you kind of expected a bit of a bump, but 54, decent enough score. Sam Walker, 39, Watson, 38, copping a sin bin and playing a bit out in the centres as well for parts of the game. So, I mean, it's going to bring down Watson's price. He's another hooker option, I guess, but they've kind of, you factor this one in, he's going to, drop down a bit in price. But the big one out of this game, Teddy with a 33, second most captain player, one of the most owned players, in the top 5% of players. Can you just chuck this one to the side, Mikey, for a score? I mean, one bag score out of a whole season of good ones, and the fact the Roosters have one hell of a run coming up, especially after their bye, he's not really a player you want to be trading out.
Nah, he's the kind of guy that's going to hurt you not having just take the low score this week and move on. I think with a lot of these scores in this games, your players have to come up against tough matchups at some point, and this is one where it's over and done with now. You're probably glad that this matchup wasn't done in a head-to-head finals week, so move on. They both have decent matchups coming up, so be happy and ready for that. And I guess the last thing just to know is I've got Captain Harry here. Says Crichton surely needs a rest soon, but I'm still getting him. It's important to know, but I think the fact that they've got the bye in 3 weeks, isn't that going to be his rest? So I feel like with the loss, Robbo wants a top 4 finish with the roster he's got. So unfortunately, with how tight the contest is, I guess, Bulldogs losing today helps the Roosters, but they need to keep winning games. So, Yeah, I feel like, they're not going to if they don't need to, especially with an
Yeah.
upcoming bye. But that's
Yeah.
just, yet again, like all
I'm,
this is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they didn't rest him coming off 80 minutes at Origin, a couple of days later, kind of means that they're definitely trying to win. So I don't think the rest is coming till maybe 23. Over to Sunday, Mikey, and
Yet again,
what about your Penny
I get to talk
Panthers?
about Penrith. So good to have a Sunday 2:00 game. Can't tell you the last time was a Sunday 2:00 game. Yeah, look, to be honest with you, I was pretty nervous going into this one because every time we rest our players, we look very, very shaky. And boy, we did look shaky, and we really turned it around at the end. The Hammer was absolutely killing us. He top scores for the Dolphins of 124, but I know he didn't top score this game, but we've got to talk about Nathan Cleary. I guess a lot of us that didn't take the punt, I know I still stand by saying how risky the move was. I'm still happy I didn't go the move. I guess for the people that did jump on last week, the move turns out to be okay because he's only going to lose 60-ish K. He's going to cost about 740,000. Everyone now jumps on because he passed the hammy test. And if you had him as your VCLC with 109, you'll take the win. So to be honest, I'd say it's a decent play, but I guess with where I'm at, I'm still happy that I didn't. I guess a lot of us were just too scared and were burnt by him last time and want to make sure that he could stop away, like just make sure he looked all right. And I was watching him closely, and at one point he had his hands on the hips and he looked like he was sucking in the big ones, just getting his first game in quite something like 10 weeks. So, but he looked good. And if you were a little bit nervous, that 45-meter field goal at the end was the best hammy test. What do you reckon, Jake? How good?
Yeah, definitely.
What a way to ice it.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a clutch player. The big moments, absolutely nailed that field goal. I mean, he absolutely shanked an easier one earlier. He had more time to take another one, but absolutely killed it.
Didn't look like it was. It would look like it was fired out of a cannon, and it wasn't going any other direction, but just. And
it's the proof to say that he's done, and you can it's safe to bring him in next week. I think against the Dragons.
Yeah. And with Penrith's run home, and the fact now that I think they're going to start, they had so many players rested, they're going to start shaping up and aiming up and strive to go, obviously they want to finish in the top two. They would love to come first again, but I think, Ivan will just want him to finish top two. So I think you can't, no one, you got to get him. He's quite simply a must have, but the writing was on the wall. When it went into Golden Point, I was like, I said, nothing says a clear return, especially for SuperCoach without a field goal. So I didn't see the 2-point one coming, but 109, against the Dragons next week. And then they played the Knights. And then they played the Eels.
That's
a big run for Cleary.
Good lot runs there.
Yeah, I still think his break even will be pretty.
Yeah, well, Savs is saying 60K price drop, 109 break even.
So as I said, 740 and 109 break even, but very achievable.
I don't think that matters. He's not going to lose a lot of cash. You don't expect it. So I think he's kind of bottomed out.
The break even mattered this week because we wanted to see his hamstrings, and obviously if he did get like a 50 or 60, it's a massive drop. Either still, we get him for 60K cheaper than what others paid this week, and he'll be the most traded in player this week. I'm certain. 2 over 96. SuperCoach wise, I guess Liam Henry with a 58 didn't play the 80 minutes, but I think the time has come to sell him. If you're still a holder, as all the troops will start to get back now, and he'll go back to his bench role and probably pump your 40s. But with the money that he's made, I'd either nuff him or get him over to someone like AFB or even Haas if you had the money and you needed a front row. Just depends what you need. Apart from that, where's Isaac Tago? How much did Isaac Tago with 50? Man, his defense has been awful. But I've still just got this feeling about him that a big score's coming. Keep your eyes peeled. Gets a big
still under 400K for Tungo as well. So
he's cheap.
Yeah.
Paul Alamotti done a forearm. Apparently broke his forearm.
Broken it. Yeah. It didn't
broken forearm or something like that. So that could see him out for the rest of the season, 4 to 6 weeks. I'm just guessing with that kind of injury. Which, to be honest,
will that mean McLean maybe gets a spot in the centres, keeps his spot?
Yeah. So to be honest, if he keeps his spot, he got 53 today, still hasn't scored a try. He'll go into playing his third game next week. So if you're someone that is, looking at nothing, especially in the centre wing position, you needed money to get to Cleary or an Angus Crichton. 204K now goes 41 and 50. He did get pushed out to the wing today too for that second half.
But I mean, you'd have Toto back, but there's Casey, like McLean was still in this game, so you need someone else to come back, and I don't think there's any other players to come back in terms of outside backs.
Yeah, correct. Correct. So it depends. Yeah, it depends. He could still obviously drop out the side because they've still got Tago, Taruva, and then see, no, there's a center spot.
There's one spot left.
Yeah. So to be honest,
that was Alamotti's spot, but Alamotti's gone now.
Yeah, well, his brother was above him in the pecking order, but it seems like after he had a bit of his injury, it looks like Casey's above him now. So, to be honest with you, I don't mind it. If you've got a centre wing spot free and you want someone to play with number, like in a Panther side with a decent draw, he's even playable. So, 204K, he's going to go up next week. Obviously, this is a TLT pending move. But I just think with the way Cleary's playing, a lot of Penrith players are going to benefit off it. So, keep your eyes peeled. Gone over the Dolphins. I think their run home does get tough in certain patches. The Hammer at 124. He could be a nice pod center wing, someone that you could jam in there. 604K, break even and 90. So he's not going to go up too much, but his break even will be pretty low next week. And he comes up against the Titans, Roosters, Warriors, and then the end of the year is pretty tough with Dogs, Storms, Broncos, and Knights. So, look, you could do a lot worse because he looks great today and he just shows the attacking prowess that he has. So I think you could do a lot worse for a pod center wing, like who's playing fullback. I think that's the handy thing. Bostock with 94, Azarko with 54. I know it's a pretty relevant one. Is it time to sell Azarko with all these center wing options that are banging on the door? If you needed money this week, and could you go on Azarko to Kate? How do you see it, Jake? Still, look, he's pumping out 50s pretty easily, but he's just not going over the line like you want him to.
Yeah, they're not going right to score tries, and he's going to get 50 without the tries. He's not really going to score any more than that. So, I mean, it's a tricky one. It depends on kind of what center wings you have. We're getting kind of at the point of the year where you're choosing players on matchups, and Asako is one that you can play on matchups. I know they had a couple of okay games in their run home, the Dolphins, and there's a couple that you would prefer not to play any of them guys. But yeah, like he's had a couple of good games early on. I think at the first bye he might have went nuts or something. But apart from that, he's kind of been disappointing. He's just kind of getting 50s every week, and it's not really what you're wanting for a high upside guy like Asako, which you probably paid a lot more for than what he's going to be, under 600K now.
Yeah, I don't mind the hole, but I'd be tempted if I could get him to like a To'o or a low max as he starts to drop money. I would totally do it. And if you had such a stacked center wing and he's your 6 or 7 center wing and you need the money, and what we said about Casey happens, I'd consider it for a major upgrade. It's a lot riskier than the move that I made last week to get that amount of cash, and you can do the same from bringing in a bottom dollar center wing who looks pretty good. And I think the other thing
left center for the Penny Panthers can't do much wrong there.
And the fact that there are spots available next year with Taruva going, like Casey was well down the pecking order, so it could be big for him to have a big end to the year to lock himself into a position for next year. It's what happened to a lot of these guys like Taruva, jump the pack by getting an opportunity and went home with it. So, to be honest with you, the more I look at it, man, I know I'm low on trades, but I really like that trade, especially if you need money. Could you do an IRO to McLean? Look, I guess this is a TLT pod question. Let's not get soaked up in it. Over to the defining game of the round, Manly the Titans. Jake, go for it.
I mean, it was kind of two halves. I mean, Tom was on 23 at halftime, then he goes and scores like 125 in the second half, and that's kind of what separates this round. As Sav says, Tommy the greatest ever SuperCoach player to live. Well, that year he averaged 140. I think he's proven that he is the best. And Sav's he's nearly. I think he scored maybe nearly
1357. 1357, and with that big score, we might see him push close to that top 10. So I think he's predicting around the 12th to 15th or something like that. I see him in the 10 to 20.
He's approaching. He's all the luck's going his way. I mean, he had like Wade Egan and players like that getting good scores this week.
But one's like
when the luck goes well for you, it goes well for you.
Tommy's timing. You get him in, you captain him back to back, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter what you scored for the week. That kind of resurrects you. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, the point proven me. I was on track for not even cracking 1,000 this week, and Tommy saves me there. Reuben Garrick, okay, 82. He was another heavily captained option for the ones that didn't have Tommy, so it's an okay score. Luke Brooks got a 113, but I mean, a lot of people started with him. Nobody has him now. Did look quite good. Ben Travojevic got a try, got a 60. There's a few teams with him kind of floating around as a player that they can't get rid of, and I guess you can take that. While Olakau'atu's out, he's probably going to play 80 on the edge, but he was shifted out to centre, so he's not really a player you're going to play, but if you're stuck with him, I mean, it's not the worst if you get desperate. Saba 51 after some big scores. Ches, I mean, he could have been a secret pot at halfback, but only got a 44 with Cleary proving that, that he's back and he's the hamstring's not an issue. I think Cleary's definitely the halfback to get, and Ches, he does finish the year off usually well, but there were moments in that game where he was throwing some pretty ordinary passes.
He's cheap and I rate him, but I think what kills him is look how much Tommy touched the ball, and this is what's scary. Fading Tom. Oh, as I said,
he was in everything, Tommy, in that second half.
And when there was like the year where he went absolutely bananas in SuperCoach, this is exactly what he was doing. So I definitely think, I'm still looking at him. I know he's going to get expensive in a couple of weeks, but with that buy looming, I just think bringing him in now could be a mistake, especially if you already got Garrick and Olakau'atu. So personally, I'm just going to watch, but I think when it comes to that round 23, it will then let me decide, do I need Ponga or do I need Tom? But I think that obviously impacted on Cherry Evans, 38 points, and Cherry Evans only got 44. So if you didn't make the risk to bring him in now, I think kind of just, wait, unless, Cleary's going to be the priority.
Cleary is the priority. Over the Titans, David Fifita, 84 with a try assist. He could have scored a couple of times. He was, jumped in dummy half. Usually, as soon as he jumps in dummy half, it's automatically a try, but
they're ready for it.
Manly were ready for it this time. Finally, a team that's ready for it. And they put him on. Carl Lawton, I thought, did a pretty good job on him. So I think if any other player was kind of there, he could have had a lot better score. Bo Firma, 78. Garno Kinney with 62. I guess the big one out of this was where was he? What did he end up scoring? JC Campbell, 32. I mean, his run of absolute blitzing games came to an end. If you're one of those people who decided to chuck the C on him after back to back big tons, it kind of hurt this one because the other guy on the other side of the field was going and scored a 158. But I mean, do you still see JC or Jaden Campbell as a player to keep? I mean, he's got that flexibility at 5'8", so you're probably going to put him at 5'8" with kind of the fullbacks that are on offer at the moment.
I think at 5'8" it's fine, but it kind of shows you his floor. And with that minus 30 break even, he's only going to go up like 35K. So with this in his low score, that massive score falls out of his rolling average. So all of a sudden, he's going to have a pretty high break even, 770K. If you like your other half options, you can go Jaden Campbell. If you bought him a couple of weeks ago, you made your money to get to Cleary now, and you can make money off that trade. I'd be tempted to do that if I liked my other halves. But if you're holding some halves that you really think, like Dylan Brown, that you want to get rid of, you'd be tempted to hold Campbell. But all of a sudden, if he goes back-to-back 30s, then he's priced way too high to stay. So I think it now puts owners in a tough position because I think a lot would have jumped on last week. So I feel like if you jumped on last week, unless you have a crap load of trades, then go for it. But if you don't, then I think the decision's a lot harder than just, let's sell him.
And I think the fact that the Titans got walloped in this game and they didn't look that good. I mean, early on they did, but apart from that, they look terrible. So I think he's going to be one that you play on matchups, and they don't have. I mean, the next game's against the Dolphins, who were that so close to being Penrith. Broncos look good now. Sharks are okay. They can play the Roosters. They play Penrith as well. Like it's a tough run for the Titans. So I can see, good merit in trading him out now that he's kind of max outting price and, earn money by going Nathan. So it's a pretty valid case there.
Yeah, I think the other one thing we haven't touched in this one is the Lehigh. Hopewade got.
Yes. That was a nasty looking eye injury.
Yeah, whatever. What's his first name? I don't remember.
Lehigh.
Yeah, I got it right. Lehigh Hopewade. 36 managed to score a try, but looked pretty nasty eye socket. So that probably sees time on the sideline. And With that low break even, people were hoping to get a bit more out of him, but it's probably time to sell, especially with all these fullbacks going bananas. The priority is to have two of them. I think you've got to have two of them as quick as you can. Yeah, let's get on to the last game of the round. This was a doozy. This was a good one. Yeah.
Oh, Mikey, I think your volume's gone then, mate. Almost went the whole way without any technical difficulties. We got to the very last game. Still can't get him. No. Good old reset, Mikey. Have you muted yourself? Mikey's the GOAT. Give us a thumbs up if you want me to start on this game, Mikey. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, this game rendered down to the wire. Cowboys 20-18. Helam Lukey was a player that a lot of people traded out. Scored a double, getting 105 in this one. Top scored by a lot. Tom Dearden was good. Cotter 55 after 68 minutes in Origin. So you take that one. Drinkwater with a lowish score for fullback. I think with the options available, I think Drinkwater probably quite down the down the ladder in terms of options. So you there, Mikey?
Yeah, you got me?
Oh, yeah. He's back.
Yeah, sorry. That was a bit harder to fix. Yeah, sorry. Continue with the player and then I'll take over.
No, so I was just saying Drinkwater and Robson, I mean, lower scores. It was a tough, grinding game. And do you think Drinkwater, with the fullbacks that are available, they still have a buy left as well, so he's probably the one you can get rid of for these turbos, Reece Walsh, Ponga, I guess, later on is do you think Drinkwater's one to hold or
no? He's got to go. Like the Cowboys need to keep winning, and this was almost a must win for them, and they needed to win it. Break even 109. He's going to lose like 45K. With these other options, I think you got to sell. There's so many options. I think you've got to go, whether or not it's Tom. Even now, Paps has finished versing the Roosters. His draw gets a bit nicer. That could be one if you don't have money that you could look and consider. I think it's time to go and drink. He's definitely done his job and he's been great this year. But with that buy coming up and all these other ones firing, I think he needs to go. Apart from that, Valentine Holmes with 46. I think if you got him,
play on the wing.
Yeah, with Purdue, the halfback made shift center.
Yeah.
And they're winning. So why are they going to, I don't know how much changes I'll do, but
the only one would be Murray Tuolungi. I mean, he's been battling that hamstring injury for most of the year, so it's all going to be on him. I think he'll come straight back and go to the wing and Val Holmes to the centre because I think on the right side they've been going all right. Like Valet has been good. So I think Val Holmes will go back in the centres. But, I mean, it was a low game. He had a lot of errors as well. Val, is he one to look at trading? I don't think so. I think I put kind of Lomax and Brian Turto ahead of him. But if you have him, I think he's a safe enough hold. Cowboys have some okay matchups coming up that, I mean, he's going to be a good player. I mean, Bulldogs, I think, second best defensive team, so you can't expect a real high game out of a winger in this one.
I think that you put him in the same category as Isaac with Holmes. That I'd potentially, with all the options coming up, I'd look at flipping him to someone else. Break even 100. He's going to go down quite a bit as well. He's going to be low 600s. And he'll have 240s in his rolling average. So another high break even incoming with, a bit of a mixed bag of a draw, like, Sharks, Tigers, Broncos, Raiders, and then they go in the bye. So, which is going to be a preliminary final. So I don't hate trading him out, to be honest with you. I guess he's someone that you could definitely hold if you're low on trades, but I think there are some sneaky options. I think the ways to get ahead for the rest of the year, if you had the trades and the pot options, will be found in the center wing. Moving on. Anyone else really on the Cowboys? Not really. Over to the Bulldogs. Curran went over for a try for kick, and that sees him at 76, and looks to be quite a fair option. Realistically, wouldn't look at bringing him in. Kraz 72. Try from a kick, proves to be, a top center wing. Play him each week. Doesn't really matter on the matchup. Definitely something we want to finish. I know he's someone you don't currently have, Jake. Are you looking at him, or you just don't have the trades and cash to look near Carraz at this stage?
I mean, I do have the trades, and I'll look at what it just depends on what center I want to bring in. Toto, Lomax, or Carraz. I mean, the fact I've kind of got Burton in now, kind of, I maybe want a different player. But yeah, Carraz, you can't go wrong. He's going to be a top, 5-ish center wing till the rest of the season. So you can't really go wrong with having him.
Yeah, 100%. Matt Burton, 71. The Bulldogs draw is getting very nice, and after this loss, they'll want to hit back home. They're still undefeated at home as well, so pay attention to.
They can't win away though. They cannot win away. I think they're 1 from 7 or something like that.
Yeah, this was theirs to lose. This was realistically, I think they should have won that game. That try to Tom Dearden was pretty pathetic. Letting him slip through like the way he got through, he had no right to get through there. So, yeah, I still think I'm looking at Matt Burton, and he's now beat his break even by like 25, 30. At the price he is, he's definitely still an option, and I'm looking at him. But as I said, they play the Broncos next week at Suncorp, and I think that's a tough ask for him. As you said, they struggle to go away. Another game up in Queensland, more travel for them. I think it's going to be a very, very tough game for them. So at this point, I think if I was keen on Bulldogs, this might not be the week, or the week coming up. It's not the one to maybe jump on. Apart from that, all the rest of them, I guess Sam Hughes proving yet again, maybe a little bit increase in minutes, but 39, if you're desperate to have to play him 1 week, you can, but it's kind of showing that we're not going to get too much more at this stage, even with the bench that they pulled up.
It's pretty much going to get 40-ish points in 40 minutes, seems to be kind of the minutes. I mean, you had Curran pretty much play the whole game. You had a bunch of, you had Patolo and a guy on debut who never played in the middle, kind of not there, and Sam Hughes only plays 40 minutes. So can't really expect with Max King gone that he's going to play much more than what he did in this game. So I wouldn't be relying on him as a second front rower. You're going to have to work out something if he's kind of your backup plan, especially in the finals, like Terrell May or a Payne Haas, and you have them there. Yeah,
if you got the cash, you'd look at it. 65 goes out of his rolling average, so he sits with the 28 and the score. Obviously, the 39 is before updates, probably ticks over above 40. So it's important to note that he'll probably go up to about 360 and have a very high break even again. He's been like a bit of like a up and down, constantly with his price. So realistically, if you were someone that didn't have many nuffs on your side and you do like to nuff, potentially nothing out Sam Hughes this week to a 200K, 204K, does net you around 160K. If that gets you, Nathan Clear or something, it is an option. Personally, my side, I'll just be sitting him there. But at the same time, this may be, if the minutes stay like that and he keeps pumping out what he is, he's not going to go up too much more than what he's going to be at next week.
No, he's pretty much going to, peter out at about 350K. So don't really expect anything too drastic or dropping too much. It's pretty much going to be 350K.
Yeah, 100%. Other than that, that wraps us up for the Sunday wrap up. Thanks, guys, for listening. Make sure you tune in with Sabs, and I'm not sure if it'll be myself or if Timmy's back. I'm not sure. I'm an outside chance of making it this week. But catch up on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, you've got your On the Burst. And also, don't forget, if you missed it earlier on, we've got a Drink West event coming up at the Drink West brewery place in Penrith. Lots of guests. You're going to hear lots about it from us on our podcast. So that's the 10th of August. So if you guys, if you can make it, come out, have a good day. Be nice to meet a couple of years, and talk SuperCoach, chat some shit. Apart from that, thanks for coming on, Jake, and
thank
see
you,
next
Mikey.
week on the wrap up.
Peace.
All right, see you later, guys. Have a good one.